All right, so we just got out of seeing an early screening of The Monkey. This is the newest film from Osgood Perkins, who brought us last year's Long Legs, and this is based on a short by Stephen King and is being produced by James Wan. I never really know why that makes any difference. Unlike the producer, typically it doesn't make much of a difference, but they always love to throw that name on there. Executive produced by Steven Spielberg or
Yes,
some shit.
yes.
And it's like, okay. But you put those names on the posters and people go,
Yeah.
oh. So this is a movie about a family, a mother and two sons, twins. I know a good deal about that. And they find a monkey in the closet that was left behind by their father. And when you twist the little knob on his back and he plays the drums, someone dies. Now, this is a horror comedy, very, very heavily comedy,
Yes.
um, but a lot of kills and a lot of gore.
Tons.
So there's no argument that this is horror as well. But for
Mm.
anyone who is familiar with Oz's work,
Mhm.
he had started off with the Netflix movie I'm the Pretty Thing That Lives in the House, which is a very slow, somber, atmospheric
Mhm.
film, right? And then he made Black Coat's Daughter, which is another super slow, super atmospheric film. Then he made Gretel and Hansel, which is a very atmospheric, slow burn, visually, you know, really artistic
Yeah.
and beautiful, and but once again very horror centric. And then he followed it with, of course, Long Legs, and that's another really dark, heavy, slower burn, atmospheric type of film. So when you're seeing he's working on something with Stephen King's adaptation, you're thinking, okay, it's probably going to be in line with the
Yeah,
others. And
sure.
this is nothing like his other films, like
Yeah.
nothing like them. This is so zany, so comedic. This almost feels like I've made four films in a row that are really heavy, really evil, really demonic,
Yeah.
and I just want a light, fun film to let loose on and just kill a bunch of people. And that's another thing too, is with this movie has a lot of gore in it. And as much as have loved Oz's previous work,
Mm.
one of the things that his films typically lack, which is a bummer for me, is gore.
Sure,
The
yeah.
Black Coat's Daughter and Long Legs and Gretel and Hansel, which is PG-13. I even think the Pretty Thing That Lives in the House might be PG-13.
Mm. It
So he's
might
not
be.
really known for his gore, and he's definitely not really known for his humor.
Yeah.
And this one is just those two things.
Yes.
This film stars Theo James as well as, I mean, that's really the main person. And
Yes.
then he has a son in this
Mm.
who's like kind of the second main character. I don't know who that actor is, but other actors that appear in here are Tatiana Maslany,
Mm.
who we know from She-Hulk,
Mm.
and she's also starring in Osgood Perkins' next film, which comes out supposedly this year, like in October. It's called Keeper, and it's already in post production. So not only did he release Long Legs back in like June, but then he releases this in February and supposedly is releasing another movie that he's already finished. So this dude's hard at work.
Very hard at work.
And we also get Rowan Campbell from Halloween Ends, everybody's favorite character, Corey Cunningham, as well as Elijah Wood, who
Mhm.
anyone who's cool knows Elijah Wood is like the biggest horror fanatic. So it's always great seeing him in here. Kaylee, what did you think of The Monkey?
I thought it was wonderful. I think that it feels like such a Stephen King adaptation.
Oh,
I
yeah.
really
It's almost
loved
like a
that.
Stephen King parody in a
Kind
way.
of. Yeah,
Yeah.
I have never read The Monkey.
Yeah.
Like so I don't know. I'm not familiar with like King's, like, how close of an
No,
adaptation
I
it
haven't
is.
read this one either.
But that was like one of the things that I kept thinking throughout the film, is like, this feels so King like in such a great way. I think if you are a fan of Stephen King, like especially the miniseries where he has like a lot of, a narrator kind of looking back on their childhood and sort of reflecting. I really like that, and that's definitely a big part of this film. So if you enjoy it too, I think that it'll be something that you can look forward to watching this. But yeah, I thought it was really funny. It's very gory, very silly, but also I did get the sense that there is like this evil in it as well. As much as it's silly, like there's definitely some moments, particularly with the monkey, I guess,
Hmm.
that I was like, I'm actually scared of that thing. It looks wonderful, like just the monkey alone. I don't know, some of the like just the expression it makes and the way it moves and everything, and its eyes especially,
Hmm.
really really scary. I thought everyone's performance was wonderful, like really fantastic from everybody, and I love that. I think that some of the best horror comedies really know how to utilize gore as like a punchline, and this movie does that really well.
Yeah.
There's a plenty of deaths that are just insane, and they're so absurd that it's funny.
Yeah.
So your reaction is to kind of like wince but also laugh in disbelief. And yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you're there for the kills. That's really the centerpiece of this film and the experience. Like, you're just waiting for the deaths. And that's why I think that the film series that I would liken this to the most easily, by far, is Final Destination.
Mm.
That's how it felt throughout. It's kind of like, in Final Destination, you always know when a kill is coming. There is some kind of Rube Goldberg
Mm-hmm.
thing happening. And you're like, I don't know who's getting it right now. Typically, you do, but it could be someone else. Can flip it, and it can be the guy in the car in front of them that
Mm.
gets it. So you don't exactly know for sure who's going to get it, but you know it's coming, and because there's always something going on, this eeriness of this moment that alludes to that death is coming and is imminent. And with this, you get a very specific cue in the fact that once the monkey starts playing his drum, and he plays that last drum, which is played to an effect where there's like tension in, like,
Yes, lots of
when's he going to put
tension.
it
Yeah,
down for
yeah.
the last time, and who's going to die.
Yeah.
You know it's coming, and you know it's going to be over the top and bombastic, because the rest of the film follows that pattern of
Yes.
just ridiculous deaths. And that's just it. Like, the audience is there to have a good time
Mm-hmm.
with the death, and as long as you can get on board with that. If you're someone who shies away from horror comedies and you're like, I don't like comedy in my horror,
Mm.
then I don't think you're gonna like this. But if you
Yeah.
are a gore hound, you might enjoy it for the kills alone. There's
Mm-hmm.
quite a few. um so definitely, if you are a big fan of the kills, then I think you might want to check this out, even if you don't like comedy. But man, yeah, it's like pure comedy horror
Yes.
throughout.
Yeah.
um and I do wonder if Oz, like, gravitated towards this because there's this eventuality to the film.
Hmm.
And with it being a King adaptation, you do get these really fun, like, moments that it's set in Maine, and there's a narration that sounds very much like, Stand By Me. And there's a
Hmm.
surprise character name drop
Yeah.
from the King verse. I won't ruin what that is for any King fans out there, but I was pretty surprised to hear it. But I do wonder if he gravitated towards this not only as maybe a Stephen King fan, as most horror fans are, but because of the making peace with the fact that death is inevitable, and
Hmm.
that there is no way out, and that it can come at any moment. And being who he is, being Osgood Perkins,
Yeah.
son of Anthony, his dad died when he was quite young.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I also think, is this not the person whose mom, or somebody, like, that was his mom or somebody, who's died, in 9/11 or something. Who was that? Was
Oh,
that not
I'm not
him?
sure.
I
I don't
could be
know.
mistaking him, but
Yeah, I don't
I'm gonna have
know.
to remember who that was. But regardless, his
Hmm.
dad for sure, died pretty young. And I think that we do gravitate towards horror as anxious people who do fear the inevitable and almost try to make light of it,
Yeah.
right? Well, everyone dies, and that's life, as
Yeah.
the kind of the catchphrase of the film, or as the poster says, everybody dies, and that's fucked up.
Yeah. Right.
um but yeah, I do wonder if there's a little more going on here in the film, in a very personal way,
Hmm.
even though the film is fairly silly. uh yeah, it's a very zany film, and I the deaths are just so ridiculous.
Yes.
There's one in particular that deals with water,
Yeah.
and it was
It's so
so unexpectedly
yes.
ridiculous,
Yeah.
because that is not even remotely what I was expecting, nor was it anywhere near reality, of course.
It's very good.
And then
Yeah.
that's when I kind of knew for sure, like,
Yeah.
oh, we're just not even gonna try
Yeah.
to be realistic in any way, shape, or form. So I think it is a huge win.
Yes, massive win.
Following Longlegs, when someone
Mm.
makes a film this close to another film, like a completely different film, you
Mm.
do worry, like, did they rush it? And the fact that he also already has another film done before this film even had been released, you're like, is he overexerting himself? Is he, taking from the well too much? Like, how much creativity does one person
No, I mean,
possess?
I think this is like equal, like as far as Long Legs goes. It's a very different film, but I think
Wildly
that the
different.
quality is like exactly the same.
It looks
It looks
fantastic. It's a
wonderful.
great looking
Yeah,
movie
the
for
way it's
sure.
lit and just the way that it looks in general.
I had heard from other people who got to see this before us, whether it was earlier in the day because they live out in the east, and they get these movies like 3 hours earlier than us, or even people who got to see it a couple days
Sorry.
before. Um, they had talked about how their audiences were really interactive with this,
Hmm.
and they had such a great experience, and they were like, make sure you see it with a big audience. And unfortunately, we saw it with a big audience, but our crowd was not as uh reactionary as I had expected them to be.
I
Some
think
people were laughing, some
yeah,
people were having a
yeah.
good time, but this was not the like,
I do.
huge crowd
Mm,
reaction that I had heard from others. So if you can't see this as a big group, I would definitely
mm,
suggest it. Go to try to see it early, but your crowd reactions may vary.
yeah. Yeah, it's true. Some people might have been expecting something more along the lines of like a Long Legs. And
Oh,
so we're
sure.
walking into it, with
They're
a
like, what the fuck is
yeah,
this?
because it's nothing like any of his other films.
Nothing.
So, which is really great. It's great to see him venture out
Branch
into
out, yeah.
this, and I think it just shows that he has, I mean, we already thought he had immense talent as a horror director, but this just shows like another like layer and level to that, I think.
It also
Um,
adds to, like, now I don't know what to expect from
yeah,
him, as
yeah,
opposed to with the last four films. I kind of knew what I was getting
sure.
myself into, and now I feel like he's throwing such a curveball that I'm like,
Yeah,
okay,
we don't know.
what's
Like
Keeper
Keeper
gonna
might
be?
be something totally different than either like this or the others. So
Yeah.
it's exciting. Yeah, that's really exciting. But I thought it was wonderful. Very entertaining, really fantastic. Definitely contending to be like in the top of the year for sure.
It's got a wonderful last, like, minute.
Oh yes,
There's some
fantastic.
stuff in there that I was not expecting at
Mm-hmm.
all. And yeah, this is like hardcore reality adjacent,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like, no one in the movie, no character acts even remotely like real life.
Which is kind of great because I think Stephen King movies and books and stories in general have that feel to them already, where it's like they sort of exist like right next door to our reality,
Yeah.
where things are never quite like the same. So yeah.
It I get what you're saying with that, but I can't think of a Stephen King film quite like this one.
No, this one's definitely unique. for sure. It makes me want to read The Monkey to see like what it's like. But I do think that there's, aside from being just a comedic horror film, as you were saying before, I think that there's some really important stuff, about like the nature of living and dying
Yeah.
and having children and it just kind of existing and all kinds of things. So,
The only thing, when I went into this, my buddy Wyatt had given it a 5 out of 5. My buddy Tony had given it a 5 out of 5. Cecil from the horror show told me it was a 4.5 out of 5, and Brett from Good Real Hunting gave it a 5 out of 5. So it's just like one after the other. We're just like, oh my god, amazing, like 5 out of 5s, and I don't give those out very often. I gave out one very recently in the last few days, and I was just like, is it possible I could give out another one? So like with those kinds of ratings and the fact that I gave like The Substance and The Girl with the Needle and these really deep, very insane films that are going to live through the test of time for me. Um, I definitely expected the film to have more to it.
hmm,
It's a very, very simple film. And I think that's what threw me
hmm,
because I was getting so much praise. I was like, man, this must feature some really like insane shit. And while it does in the kill department and the zaniness, which I really, those are top tier, like 5 out of 5s for sure, because this film has its own feel to it, which is great. But as far as like a plot line goes, um it's pretty much non-existent, but it is based on a short story. So like there's really not much more to the movie than you get a monkey, you turn his thing and it kills people.
hmm.
There's a like one extra added element to that. I won't say what it is, of course, but that's mostly the movie right there. So I don't know what exactly I was expecting from that, but when people hype things hard
Sure,
right
it can
before
be
you walk
hard.
in, you
Yeah.
just get like, oh my god, the greatest shit ever, the greatest shit ever, the greatest shit ever.
Hmm.
It brings your expectations too high, and I try never to let that happen. I really, really do. But I'm not down on this film at all. I'm very high on it. I had a great time, but hype is definitely a weird uh, animal all to itself.
Yeah,
So
yeah. I mean, it's interesting that you say that because I do think that I think that there's a lot going on with the story. Actually, I think that there's a
really,
lot of stuff to kind of like talk about with it. But
hmm,
I mean, I see what you're saying though, also about it being like, if you compare it to something like this substance, there's a lot of things happening in that plot. This is not like that. It is much more simple than that is, but I would give it a 5 out of 5. I'm a lot more generous with my fives, but I do think that it's a pretty perfect like. Just I don't have any problems with it. I know we were talking about like how you kind of decide whether or not a film gets a 5. And for me, like I didn't have any issues with this
hmm,
film. I think that everything lines up really well. The horror, the way it looks, the acting from everybody, just the overall vibes and everything, and kind of the overall message too. And the fact that I think that it has like the potential to be a conversation starter in a lot of
hmm.
ways. So I really loved it. I thought it was great.
Yeah. So, I look forward to watching it again.
Yeah.
It comes out February 21st.
Mm-hmm.
So we did get to see it about 8 days early, I think. Um, and for those of you who have an AMC,
Hmm.
we saw the popcorn bucket that they were
Yeah.
selling, that people, at least I think it's a popcorn bucket. I can only imagine that's what
I
it is.
assume it's popcorn bucket. It
But they have a monkey there.
was really cool.
And it's easily the coolest one
Yeah.
I've seen of the popcorn buckets.
We have
That's
the
the
ghost
thing
face
now.
one.
Yeah.
We haven't gotten any of the others, but I think the popcorn buckets are like a cool little collectible item for people, honestly.
Yeah,
But this one was really the coolest for sure.
the Dune sandworm seemed to kick off this
Hmm.
desire for a popcorn bucket craze.
Mm-hmm.
And like all the big movies have gotten them now, and they all have to outdo each other. And I've seen, I think, most of them, but this one really stood out.
Yeah,
Like
I
this
like
one
this one
was
a lot.
really, really good looking. Like it looked like the monkey in the
I
movie,
know.
like to lesser
It's
quality, of
scary
course,
though.
but it was cool. And last thing I'll say on that though is that this is definitely one of those props that you're
Yes.
gonna want
Yeah. I was just
one
thinking
of
that.
in the
But then I
house.
was also thinking, would I want it in the house?
I
I don't
do.
know.
I definitely do. I mean,
Yes, but there will be a rule to not turn the key. So
that's why like, you know, the horror movies with like the dolls
yeah, they
are
always
always a good seller because you
yes.
want Chucky, you want an Annabelle,
Yeah,
you
you
want a
do.
whatever. Like those are just they're cool to have because
Yeah,
they're conversation starters. They're good like pieces for the house, and a monkey in the house would be a good addition.
it would.
So drummer monkey. Um, yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking of monkeys, watch Better Man. All right, that's that. See you in the comments.
Bye.
Bye.